Hello there, everybody. So, we're going to be taking a little bit of a, we're going to go a little bit off the beaten path for this one, and first thing I've got to do is that I've got to shut the blinds. Well, this is the problem. I literally cannot actually do any videos whatsoever whenever, like, there's even any sort of semblance of daylight outside, because I have to shut the blinds. I've got to turn the lights on inside, because it is, the whiteness of, like, outside, even at 4:30 in the afternoon, just as spring is about to begin. But we have to I've got to actually put the bigger light on. 1 second. Right, okay, that should do it. That's the only benefit really the winter time has, because 4 months ago it would have been pitch black outside. But now that we've loosely established this, and is there literally even a way I can even turn down notifications? Like, I'll put it on silence, I've turned it down to nothing, and I can still hear like all day long. Anyway, animals. Is Chris too nice, or is he simply too nasty? So yeah, like I said before, we're actually going to do a little bit of a smaller article today, because there are some articles that are literally, they go on forever. Also, the only thing to mention is that this page still needs information about Chris's other pets. And yes, the ones that we have no ideas about. Chris's relationship with fictional animals such as Sonic the Hedgehog and the American Rabbit. A section of Chris's views on animal ethics would also be appropriate. Nothing about Chris is appropriate, but let's pretend as though we didn't know that. Animals are defined as eukaryotic life forms of the kingdom Animalia. In common speech, humans are not considered animals, even though they do meet this definition. Non-human animals can be broadly divided into domesticated animals, which are kept and raised by humans, and wild animals which exist independently from humans. For better or worse, Chris has owned countless animals such as dogs and cats throughout his life. It's mostly this camp, but let's get started. Notable animals in Chris's life. Patti Chandler. Probably one of the saddest character to ever exist in the Chris Chan story is Patti. Patti was a dog of mixed breed, being part Beagle and part Spitz, and member of the Chandler household from 1988 to 2006. Named for the St. Patrick's Day on which she was born, Chris was apparently very fond of Patti, claiming that he spent a lot of time with her when she was alive, citing her death as a source of trauma compared to losing a family member in 9/11, and making her the very first being to live on in C-197. After passing away in the real world, despite this when she was being put down, Chris was not too distressed to draw sonnetu on the paper for Patti's euthanasia. And I should also point out, because this is legitimately like almost one of those occasions where I don't even want to read out the obituary that Chris wrote for Patti, because, listen, as much as we demonize Chris for probably good reasons, and as much as we say that we can't accept Chris's actions, in instances concerning Patti Chandler, when Chris was still somewhat, sane and sound of mind, it's one of the most heartbreaking things you'll hear come from Chris, because, well, this is when Chris still had a mind of his own and the ability to feel, because Patti really meant that much to Chris. In Chris's fantasy universe, Patti joined Chris's Electric Hedgehogs and other heroes as Patti Chan, and would appear in several of the Sonnetu comics. Patti lived in a doghouse that weighed approximately 5 to 10 tons, according to Chris. And there she is right there. And bear in mind, blissfully unaware of who her owner really is, but then again, this was during Chris's early years and stuff like that, when Chris was, not drawn to the shackles of the internet. Clover and Snoopy. Clover was Chris's dog from March 2012 up until he was arrested in August of 2021, and is confirmed to be alive under the care of Bob as of March 2024. Snoopy was her brother and Bob's dog until his death in July 2021. Ironically, Chris lost custody of Clover on the 9th anniversary of the dogs being revealed to the public in a photograph he submitted into a local radio contest that was later uploaded to the Quickie forums. Both beagles, they were named for a My Little Pony Tales character and the famous Peanuts star, respectively. Unlike Paddy, the beagles lived inside the Chandler house alongside Bob's horde. The dogs liked to play on a mountain of cloves that Snoopy fell from as a puppy, permanently damaging his leg in the process. Chris can literally go to... and Bob could go to hell as well for this, and I know this may be a bit of a generalized article, but I can promise you guys we are going to be doing extended articles on all of Chris's pets anyway, because, well, we'll get to why later on. Fictional animals in Chris's life. The American Rabbit. The American Rabbit, actually named Robert Rabbit, is the Legomorph protagonist of the obscure 1986 animated movie The Adventures of the American Rabbit, which Chris was unironically a fan of during his childhood, even once declaring the filmmakers really should have made a TV series of him. He was also the first fictional character that Chris claimed to have looked up to as a hero, and evidently seems to have influenced Chris, or was at least one of his first influences, given his TV diet at the time. To profess beliefs in being true and honest, whilst otherwise failing to practice what he preaches in real life, as well as triumphing over anyone he would perceive to be villainous just for going against his ideals. This position as a role model would eventually be passed on to Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog is the lead character of a multimedia franchise created by Sega that was being ongoing since his first outing on the Sega Genesis in 1991. Chris was introduced to him through playing a demo of this particular game in a Sega Genesis display at the Charlottesville Fashion Square's Sears store that year. But what would truly solidify Sonic's place in his heart was his victory in the Watch and Win sweepstakes in 1993. Sonic, from that point onwards, went on to become arguably one of the biggest fixated interests Chris ever had in his life, next to Pokemon, and possibly My Little Pony, it depends who you ask, culminating in the creation of Sonichu, both the character and comic for which he has since attained infamy as an online celebrity of sorts. Chris has also expressed more loyalty to his fictional character than anyone should, admitting to Jackie that he used to be distraught whenever bullies claimed Sonic was dead, and even being infuriated by a non-canon spin-off altering Sonic's arm colour to the point of vandalism in stores and narrowly avoiding imprisonment for assaulting a game store's assistant manager in the process of attempting to do so. And if you can't hear that, that's a plane flying around outside. Bit low altitude if I can hear it from here. So, that's technically it, guys, and I would say that is kind of where it should start and stop. However, this article does leave out a great deal, and that is when it comes to cats. And when it comes to the issue of cats, there's no way Lucy can still be alive. Lucy is would nearly be 20 years old in about a year or so, and Lucy, I can't imagine Lucy would be going about for much longer. I know there is a separate article for Chris and his cats respectively, but just to let you guys know, apparently there was something about not necessarily an infestation problem, but for some reason cats seem to be really inclined to be around 14 Branchling Court. I have no idea why this is. I don't know if it's just Ruckersville is a bad place for abandoning kittens, because you may remember, guys, that ever since lockdown ended, there's been a very at least in the UK, there's been a very sharp rise in the number of homeless cats, because the idea was that people were adopting cats during lockdown, and well, they treated cats as though they were only for Christmas and not for life. You ever seen those ads, guys, on the the RSPCA that, or even on the Dogs Trust? a dog is for life and not just for Christmas. Danny Osmond did a song about that in the 1970s. It was called Puppy Love, by the way. Yeah, oh dear, have I just shown my age? Because even I know what that song is. It wasn't even Danny Osmond who originally sang. We're moving on. Anyway, whilst this is probably a discussion that's going to be lending itself to other articles, and, well, I could already hazard a guess what you guys are going to be saying. Should Chris be allowed to have animals? I would say no. Because, as this defeated and deflated picture of Chris would seem to suggest, it's way too much responsibility for Chris to handle, and not to mention that Chris doesn't really see. If Clover and Snoopy is anything to go by, Chris should not even consider the idea, because what exactly would Chris want another pet for in the first place? If Chris understandably has no interest whatsoever for, and we'll be talking about this when we actually talk about Clover and Snoopy in full, because I don't think they were ever taken out for walks. The hoarding situation resulted in Clover's leg being permanently damaged. Was it Clover? I don't think it was. Sorry, Snoopy, I should say. But still, Chris never bothered to do any of that. And, well, again, that's probably a topic that we'll have to come to when we talk about the cats and the dogs, respectively. And in case you're also wondering, before we go, why there isn't a section on here about whether or not Chris is a furry or not, it's because we already covered that in Chris and Sex. So, if you're wondering why that's not here, there's your reason. Doesn't really seem that worth it in the grand scheme of things. And, well, I guess that's it. Yeah, a bit of a shorter one, but, well, like I said, guys, a dog is for life, not just for Christmas. Thank you.